because of his injury, we just haven't really obviously seen much of it. But even when he signed, I think it was just in a period where there was a lot going on. We didn't really get him to ask much questions about it. I mean, so we don't really know that much about it. Can you give a bit of an insight to what kind of character he is? You said yesterday he's been sort of silently working his way through his rehab. Is he quite a quiet guy? And how much did the dressing room particularly happy with him to have a night like that? I mean, at the end of the game, Basuma was pushing him.
Yeah. No, he is. I mean, he's pretty quiet, unassuming, but again, one of these guys always got a smile on his face, very popular in the dressing room. I think the lads felt for him this year because, you know, when you train with someone and you see the potential, because he's exciting. Like when he gets the ball, he does things that others, you know, really can't do in that, you know, running with the ball, taking players on, and you know, everyone fell for him, particularly, like I said, he got to move to a big club. This was going to be his time, and you know, he had sort of got the injury, then he had the second one, which was worse. And whenever you're having surgery or, you know, something major like that happen during a season, particularly in your first season in a new club, a young player, it's tough, you know. But I get the sense with Wilson, under sort of that quiet, unassuming nature, he's a pretty determined young man. You know, he knows where he's heading, and he's really ambitious. And I was super pleased for him last night. I mean, obviously, you know, 2 goals, but just his general play, his link-up play. I mean, I know, you know, the goal they scored was a stuff-up, but don't underestimate that he ran close to 70, 80 metres as a winger to intercept that ball. I mean, that doesn't go unnoticed by his teammates. You know, they know that, you know, this guy's working hard for a team. He's not just when we have the ball. When we don't have the ball, he's bought into sort of what we're doing. So, like I said, I think that's what you saw after the game. I think he's hugely popular. He's, you know, very similar to Pape. You know, they're just really nice-natured young men who go with the flow, but also have a inner determination to be the best they can be.
And just lastly, yesterday, when you talk about the significance of the result, you talked about the outside noise which doesn't bother you, but the players and the club are aware of it. How difficult is it for you as the manager to try and keep it from impacting and influencing the dressing room?
Look, it's always a challenge, and the reality is you're never 100% successful because, you know, like I'm sure, like I said, young people, particularly today, you know, unless they kind of lock themselves away somewhere, are going to, you know, it's going to infiltrate their world one way or another, whether that's through, you know, social media or interactions they have with others. So, but I've said all along, I've never sensed at any point the playing group splintering or losing belief in what we're doing. I just haven't sensed that, and that's kind of important to me because I've said many times as a manager, particularly through tough situations, it can be a very isolating, you know, sort of existence where you kind of feel like you're the only one sort of in the boat rowing in one direction. But I never got the sense of that with the players. So, yeah, even last night, like I said, we kind of knew the significance of the night, not from the point of view of anything other than we wanted to progress because we think there's a great opportunity for us in Europe. But, you know, if things didn't go well, there would have been, you know, the noise would have been amplified to nth degree. And I think the way the players handled all that last night shows that even if the outside noise is kind of infiltrating, because again, when you're looking at a game like last night and you know you're 1-0 down, you're thinking, well, if you don't score in the first 15, 20 minutes, how the players going to react? Because there can be a slight panic, but I just felt they handled it really well last night. Even though it was 0-0, they were still in control. We scored one, stayed in control, scored our second, stayed in control. And even when they scored, we went up and scored a great goal. So that shows me that they're handling it really well. And it's a credit to them. Like I said, it's not, whilst... Okay, it's a quarterfinal of a European competition. It's not winning a trophy for this club. It hasn't happened often, so it's still a significant step, I feel.
And just on a similar theme, you said on Wednesday that there are many jobs where you have to come in and answer questions about your future. I mean, how have you handled that in the last few weeks? And do you think the scrutiny here has been more than in your previous jobs?
Yeah, scrutiny is more because there's more noise. But that doesn't mean it needs to affect you. Look, I've said many, many times that it doesn't concern me because I'm not really sure how people kind of perceive this role and particularly me as a person, that they would think that I would worry about tomorrow if there's a negative outcome. I just don't live my life that way. I don't speak that way. I don't think that way. I don't, my whole career, all I've ever done is just try and I love what I do. I get up every day, take on the challenge, see what the possibilities are and keep moving. And so, yeah, there's a lot of noise and, I think there's always kind of two sides to that. One is, people there's some critical analysis of what I do. Others just like the story of a manager being under pressure. People get excited by that. Some people really enjoy that process for some bizarre reason, and the more they try and push individuals, whether it's me or anyone else, to that sort of position, then generates for them whatever sort of satisfaction they get out of it. But doesn't infiltrate my world, mate. Irrespective of what happened last night, I still would have gone home and asked my kids how the concert went. My life goes on, mate. It's not that sort of overwhelming that I feel the need to block it all out or to kind of react to it. Doesn't bother me.
Do you think it's something, I don't know if personal is the right word, but do you think it's more intense because it's you, because of where you come from? Do you get that?
If I say, look, yeah. If I say that, then people will just kind of see me playing the victim card, and I don't want to do that. But 100% there's an element of that. There's no doubt about that. Let me give you an example, all right? It's only a small career today, so I can share it amongst us. Whatever profession you're in, you're a journalist, you're a plumber, you're a policeman, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor. You've been doing that job for 26, 27 years. Irrespective of whatever you do you reckon that person's got a pretty good idea about that job? Would you ever question his knowledge on that job? Would you ever question whether, every decision he makes he's thought about or experienced before? But then you might say, okay, but for 26 years, and if you survive for 26, 27 years, it means you haven't stuffed up too many times. And whatever you do, because if you're a plumber, then everywhere you've gone, if there's leaks, then you're not going to get another job. If you're a doctor and people are dying, then you're unlikely to kick on. So if you're doing it for 26, 27 years, he's got a fair idea about what he's doing. Now but then you might say, yeah, but, maybe he's just a grinder, But then if that person started pretty much on the factory floor of that industry, whatever industry it was, maybe you're a CEO or whatever, and he ends up in a position where the top 1% of his profession get to, and you've got to say, oh, okay, this guy must have something. You don't get to that from the factory floor, from the basement to the top 1% in your field. I'm talking about the level, I'm not talking about expertise. But then you might say, okay, but he's out of his depth now. Okay, well, but if you've taken a club that finished 8th to 5th in your first full year, you go, so when you put all that together and then you hear, like I said, he's out of his depth, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's got no idea, his methods don't work, his philosophy doesn't work. In any other industry, you wouldn't do that. You might be critical of his performance, but you wouldn't do that. But Google my name and get some headlines and just plaster them on a wall. And you would say, I don't think that fits somehow, but it does, because that's kind of where we're at.
I guess people would say that the higher up you go in any industry, the more pressure and the more scrutiny there is. That's kind of the reward.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, that's right. But like I said, there's a difference from that. So like I said, there's critical analysis of performance at every level. And like I said, as you get higher, there's bigger things at stake, for sure. But do you always say, like I said, forget football manager, forget me, just any other, would you say, but he's got no idea what he's doing. He's got no plan B. He's stubborn. His methods don't work. He's out of his depth. But where does that come from? From people that probably, some weren't even born when I first started managing. I started in 1990, 6, 7. But now, what I do is, like I said, you got to just accept that's part of the world I'm in, but I accept it. I don't have to sort of react to it. I can just sort of laugh it off because I just think it's ridiculous. And it doesn't change me as a person, okay? It doesn't change anything I do or what I believe or how I continue to go on. Because my career will go on. Everyone realises that whatever happens, my career will go on. So, yeah, that's a long answer, isn't it?
Do you still enjoy it? So I remember you said...
I love it, mate.
No, but I mean specifically this period, 'cause I remember you saying at the start you actually, your favourite time.
Yeah, no, I do. I love it. No, I'm not saying that sort of facetiously. I love the fact that, you know, there's a massive challenge there and people are doubting you and all that sort of stuff. I do love it. But I also think that some of it is just ridiculous beyond its nature of being anything other than just cheap, you know, and like very shallow in terms of, like I said, I'm not talking about critical analysis. I'm not talking about, you know, but, you know, oh, jeez, I'm going on now. I've got one more story and then I'll let you go. You know who the greatest nemesis for any manager is? I'll tell you and in today's world, and he's only come to surface probably in the last sort of 5, 6 years, I reckon, or maybe 10 years, Mr. Hindsight. Yeah, Mr. Hindsight is the guy who, when the outcome's there, the result's already done, he's got all the answers with the greatest of certainty that was so obvious, and he's never wrong. And Mr. Hindsight will go out there every time and profess to be the oracle of all oracles because he just deals with what's happened after the event, never before. And there is such a massive Mr. Hindsight. I mean, the Killer should do a song about him. I'd definitely buy it. That's the one that just about every manager will go around, nah, I mean, you don't. You want to be critical or you want to have really strong sort of opinions about things, state them before the event. Make them really clear and stand by them when they're wrong, because I guarantee you they'll be just as wrong as any manager is wrong, probably more often. But there aren't many of those. There are some who if they don't do it before the event, after the event, will sort of always put a perspective on their analysis. But I see them, mate, and I hear them after the event. Oh, so obvious. Oh, how did he get that team selection wrong? Oh,
Just the results, isn't it?
huh?
That's just results. I mean, you say hindsight, but actually it's just outcomes.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. But it's easy to deal with an outcome. Anyone can deal with an outcome. You don't need to be even understand football. That team won, that team lost. Oh, that team's better, that coach is better, those players are better, that system's better, those selections are better, those decisions are better. They were always going to be better. I could have told you that before the game. You never did, but I could have told you that before. Everything's obvious. So what's the point? So if it's just results, what's the point of having any analysis? All we'll do is, whoever won, you put a column there, you say, everyone write the same piece for that. Whoever lost, put a column there, write everyone the same piece there. These managers are under pressure. These managers are the best. And then flip it in the following week, because the results always go the other way. But anyway, mate, we should have had this offline. I've said too many things that I'm going to regret tomorrow or this afternoon. Yeah.
And you face Fulham on Sunday.
Yeah.
The emergence of teams of recent seasons, but particularly this season, like Fulham, Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, how much harder has that made Tottenham's ambitions, and how much more competitive has that been?
Not just Tottenham's, I think the whole league. I think, and it's no coincidence those teams aren't in Europe. I'm telling you, the player attrition rate for teams in Europe is going to catch up with everyone. And whether people, I know people kind of look at us, but ask any club this year that's in Europe. I've had a big fixture schedule and they've all got problems. Now, sometimes they're not as significant because it depends who they hit. You know, with us, I think they've hit significant players, which meant they've been sort of even more exacerbated. But, you know, I think it's probably affected a lot of clubs that are in Europe this year, their league form, And that's allowed teams, like you said, the very good football teams like Fulham and Bournemouth and Brentford and Brighton, Forest. It's pretty tight up there. Newcastle, all these clubs who, and particularly if they haven't had any sort of lengthy cup run as well, then it's a competitive league. But I don't think that's going to be any different from now on. I think for all clubs, the attrition rate is just going to increase if you're in Europe, and you're going to find more and more clubs, sort of either going up the table or falling down, depending on how healthy they can keep their players.
Does that take a little bit of the credence away from the Premier League table and how it looks at the end of the season? If some of these teams have maybe had half as many games as some teams who are in Europe and they've had cup runners, does that actually make the gold standard Premier League table 1 to 20 actually a bit less important?
No, I wouldn't say that. I still think there's a level of sort of performance you need to have there that, irrespective of kind of, but it does even up the field, I think, from that perspective. Now, obviously Liverpool have done really well to navigate both, for sure. But I think they're the anomaly. So I don't think it takes away from the achievement and I don't think it takes away from the Premier League. But like I said, I think what you've seen this year, I think actually started last year. I think Newcastle were badly affected last year, a couple of other clubs, and this year I think there's been more clubs. I know we've had a big focus, but there's other clubs that have been affected really badly by injury this year, and I don't think that's going to diminish. And it's probably something that at the beginning of the year, clubs that are in Europe, because again we've got 2 extra games in Europe now compared to last year, they're going to have a look at their schedules and look at their squads and say, well, okay, you still got 2 cups you have to compete in as well, Carabao, FA Cup. You've got the numbers are cranking up. Players are having less time off in between seasons. I think there's some test cases. Will probably be one of them that clubs will look at and say, well, okay, how are we going to navigate all this so we don't fall into the same sort of position?
Thanks, guys.
Apologies.